Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share with you this really great free resource that I put together to help you with your business. The Mindset and Business Strategy for Creatives is a golden collection of the best books and podcast episodes that you should be consuming today to get all the knowledge and strategy to help you grow your business. If you want to grab that resource, just head to photobizeducation.com and hit our freebie collection. I would love for you to enjoy that and then send me a quick email. Let me know what you think. In today's episode, I talked to Adam Liet. He's the founder of Smooth Operations that helps entrepreneurs navigate the growth phase of their businesses by creating good systems and workflows. He really talked about the importance of setting up team members for success by becoming a leader instead of a micromanager. Adam also shares his journey from being a special operator in the US military to working in social media and marketing, which eventually led him to start Smooth Operations. He talked about critical roles of communication and routine in keeping team members connected to the company's mission. We had an amazing conversation, and I can't wait for you to listen. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I am your host, Nada Salvatore, and today I have Adam Liet with me, and he's the founder and director of Smooth Operations, which, by the way, I love that name. Very, very creative. That helps entrepreneurs create systems and workflows needed to scale online companies. So welcome, Adam.
Thank you so much for having me, Nada. How are you?
I'm doing well. So let's tell them a little bit more about just you, where you are, the services that you offer right now, and then we're going to backtrack a little bit into how you got there.
Sure thing. So what I do is I help entrepreneurs that are at the growth phase where they're realizing they can't do it all themselves. They need to bring in help. They need team members. And it can be a really critical time in a company's growth because I think we've all heard the stories of, oh, I hired a VA, it didn't work. And the number one question I ask is, well, what responsibility did you play in that? Well, it just wasn't a good VA. I'm like, no, brother, that's not the problem. Like, you have to set people up for success. You have to show people how to succeed in your business. That involves documentation, project management, learning how to become an actual leader in an organization instead of a micromanager. For most entrepreneurs, this is a difficult time period. And so I'm here to help shepherd them through that, help coach them through those pain points. Ultimately, the objective is to bring in someone who will actually run the day-to-day of the company to put you, the visionary CEO, in your place of highest purpose, being that visionary person. But there's always that weird in-between phase where you're going to be doing both. And so bringing in outside help is always really helpful to help you navigate those waters.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure we've all gone through that. If you have a business, if you started a business and grew enough to have to recognize, one, that you need help. I think that's the hardest part too, is just recognize that you need help. And two, understanding how to get the proper help. And how to set them up for success, like you said. So tell us a little bit about just your transition into the job that you had before and then starting Smooth Operations.
So if I go all the way back, I was actually in the Army. I was a special operator in the U.S. military, paratrooper, jumping out of airplanes, fighting wars all over the world, doing all that fun stuff, right? And I got into social media and marketing specifically. I literally fell into it. I had a parachuting accident, broke my ankle, and was lying in bed for 2 months. And I got into this marketing thing. Like, this is cool. I can still be working while I'm laid up. I ended up taking a job after I got out of the Army with a music company out of London, where I was very low-level social media manager, marketing. And as the company grew, it's like, we need an operations manager. We need someone to run the business. And so it grew organically, where I stepped into that role, had to build all of the things that I know how to do myself through the pain points, through all the beating my head up against the wall trying to figure out how to make people do what I wanted them to do, because it turns out people don't react the way they do in the military. We can just order them to do something. Like, you actually have to lead them. It's crazy. So it was that whole process of growing a company the way we did, where we went from about 400,000 a year in revenue to 5 million, and the growth, not only in the marketing, but then the team side, and what it did for me as a person, be able to see myself in a different light that I never saw before. And it's crazy when you find out who you really are in the world, and the mission that drives you on.
All right. So can you share the origin story of the Smooth Operations and kind of what inspired you to start that venture?
Yeah, it was all the things that I saw in that journey of learning to actually lead my team and how to manage all the projects that we had, but also the people that we had. When it comes down to it, our business is comprised of systems, it's comprised of products, but more than anything, it's comprised of people. And when we learn to lead people and be people first, it's kind of like, it's a bad catchphrase. Like, we're a people first company. Everyone says that, but do you actually mean it? What I've noticed is that there's very deliberately two different types of leadership that a company really requires. The first is inspirational, motivational leadership. That's what CEOs are for. That's what visionary leaders are for. You guys can't help yourself but to be that person. It's in every ounce of your being. And that energy from that visionary lasts about 10 minutes to the team, because then they have to start getting into the work, and then they need emotional support. They need to know that someone's there to help them through the process, to be there when they do need help. And really, that's where my role became the most pivotal in that company. It just inspired me so much to see the reaction that I was able to get from my team, to see that we, despite going through intense growing pains and all the things that come with it, we did not lose team members. We kept team members. They were willing to go through the punches with us, because they believed in the leadership that we were inspiring. And so seeing that firsthand and being in that driver's seat, it was just, I have to get this message out. I have to teach people this, because it's such a critical part of growing our businesses, especially in the day and age when employees have a different expectation of business than they ever did before. Things are changing. We need to change with it to become the leaders that our team needs us to be.
How were you able to keep people connected to that mission, given that I think by nature we are selfish beings? We want to know what's in it for us, right? And so when you're part of a team, how do you help people connect with the same message that is coming from leadership all the way down to the ones that are going to have to be doing the work every day?
That all comes down to communication and just how many touch points do you have with your team. I believe this probably comes from my military background, but I'm a very routine guy, hard to believe. But I think everything does operate better within a routine. Even us internet entrepreneurs that say we like to fly by the seat of our pants and have no schedule, you kind of like a little bit of a schedule. It's just whether it's the full 9 to 5 versus like maybe a 9 to 11 schedule where things are laid out for you, where you're in a routine, where you have a standard way of approaching Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. So if we have built-in communication routines within our company where we're meeting with certain team members certain days of the week, going over different parts of the company on different days of the week, that provides stability for our team members. And it provides you, the leader, an opportunity to reiterate what we're doing on those days of the week. So really just having stability in your communication, routine in your communication, and not pretending like you can go off for 3 days and leave your team alone and they're going to still be motivated. Team members don't work that way. They need that at least 3 times a week, if not daily touch points with you to stay connected with the mission, to remember why they're doing what they're doing, and just to have that continual feedback loop where they can also provide information back to you. It all comes down to your communication cadence that you're giving with your team.
Very cool. Do you have a preferred method that you like to get teams together when it comes to communication?
The best method I've ever used actually was literally just using the Zoom cloud. My team has never been geographically consistent. It's always been spread from London to the Philippines to India it's really hard to say, hey, we're having a 9 a.m. team meeting with someone in the Philippines, because that's 9 p.m. to them from Eastern time to Filipino time, but they still value seeing you. So what I would do, for example, my daily touch point, I would do it in the Zoom cloud. I would record myself speaking over what we're doing on the day or updates to our projects. It might take me 30 seconds to 3 minutes long. Really, that's the longest I think I ever done in my career was 3 minutes. And I would post a link to our Slack channel. So they not only get to hear what's going on, they get to hear it from me. They get to see me and make one more connection point with me. So that's by far my favorite, especially for us geographically dispersed teams.
Yeah, that's very helpful when you have different time zones for sure.
Especially if it's a 5-minute thing. Do you really need them to all jump on live for 5 minutes? Likely not. Because it's never 5 minutes then. You spend 5 minutes just talking about the darn solar eclipse.
Right?
Right?
Perfect. So if you reflect on your time as a director of operations and that music education company, what were some of the key systems and processes that you implemented in there that you believe are critical to help with the growth that the company had?
So it's not the fun ones, unfortunately. Like the fun ones that get us as visionaries excited about are the big projects that we can mold out and like, this is our giant launch. Now we're going to do it. That gets us excited. And the team's kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's been more of the day-to-day routine where if I can show a team member, you come in on Monday, here's your day-to-day task. Here's your list. Here's all the resources that you need, links to everything, and it's replicating. So every Monday it repeats. You don't need to program it back in yourself. It's in project management and it just shows back up. You know what to do every single day of every single week to provide you at least that starting point to what you're going to be doing that day. That's where I noticed the biggest wins because I gave my team that foundation. If they could blast through that 2 to 3 hours of more tactical oriented work, hey, check this email address, check these message boards, those kinds of things, it meant they freed up their headspace to be able to work on more creative projects than I needed them to do. And honestly, then they were ready to move on to those creative projects because like, okay, I got that other work out of the way. Now I'm ready to apply my brain to this. Versus we spend so much of our thinking thoughts on stuff that really doesn't matter. Think about like, did you actually think about what you ate for breakfast this morning or did you just eat? Just ate, right? I meal prep. So I'll make the same meal for 6 days straight and I'll put it in the fridge and I'll pull it out. I'll heat it up. It's a no thinking thing for me. Same with half the clothing I wear. Thankfully, I'm a dude, so I can get away with it a little easier. Like I literally have like 30 of the same t-shirt for a reason because decision fatigue is real. We feel it as leaders. You can't expect your team members not to feel it too. Even if it's something you think is like, that's not a big deal. You're just checking a message board. Give them the tools to do it. Give them the link. Make it easy. That was the biggest thing. And without even touching anything else, if I reflect back, we went from, it was an education company. So it was memberships and courses. We went from 20 new students a day to 100 new students a day without increasing our work with our hours because we optimized our workflows first.
Yeah, I feel like most people, unfortunately, get that flow of people coming into the business first and then scramble and try to get processes and procedures together.
Oh, and make no mistake, that's how we did it too. It was, holy crap, we got to fix this. It's broken.
Yeah. And so this very common path. I always talked about for people starting their business, you know, that same concept of dress for the job you want and not the job you have. You can take advantage of the time where you're not getting flooded with clients yet to really build strong processes and procedures when you have the time to do it, which is in the beginning of your business, the beginning of your career as an entrepreneur. Build those systems to manage hundreds and hundreds of people coming through. So when you get to that point, you just need to tweak it and adjust it, make small adjustments so you're not scrambling trying to get all of that done once you're, at the same time that you're trying to manage and give a good customer experience to all these people coming through. So it's a different concept to apply, but it makes sense when you think about it.
Well, at the same time, you don't really know what you need yet either when you're at the beginning. You're not going to know until your teams bring it up to you and say, this is a pain point. This is where I'm having trouble. That's your opportunity to fix something. One of my mentors told me, he said, the thing is, your business is broken. And if everything goes right, it always will be. That's something that's always stuck with me. And I have to give credit. That's Alex Sharfin who told me that. It's one of the things that gives me a lot of hope because, It used to be when something's broken in your business, you're like, oh crap, oh, I got to fix this. When you take that mindset, it's, oh man, I have an opportunity to fix something now. It's like a complete mind switch. So I look for the broken things because that's my opportunity to fix it.
Very nice. That's a great way to look at it. Do you have a preferred program that you use for project management?
I do. And this is always like that question, right? Like it's like email marketing. They're all kind of the same. It's just kind of
Right.
preference. I personally use Asana for my own project management. I know ClickUp's like the thing now, right? I've used ClickUp. I get it. I've used Jira. They all kind of do the same thing. So honestly, it's like, hey, whatever works for you now and you like, especially like the interface and working within it. If the interface drives you crazy, don't subscribe to it, even if everyone says it's the best thing, because you're going to hate the interface. So why do it? So that's the biggest thing I tell people is all these things kind of do the same thing. So pick one that is pleasing to you so that you'll want to work in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of visual difference, but when it comes down to what they do, they're all doing the same thing.
Pretty much. The best thing is like, it's not rocket surgery,
Mm-hmm.
It's just project management. If you really want to do it from a spreadsheet, you can. I don't recommend that, but you technically could.
Yes, that's right. So you talked about your experience kind of coaching some friends through their entrepreneur struggles. How do you feel like that influenced your services and the approach that you take on smooth operations?
The best part about coaching your friends is they'll give you the no filter feedback. Especially if you open up the door to them. So being able to coach friends first and usually, if not free of charge, greatly reduced price allowed me to optimize a couple of things. Because like how I'd mentioned, the best thing I'd ever done was the day-to-day tactical management of the company. That's actually the more difficult part to implement, though. The sexy part is the easiest part to implement, which is just the project-based workflows. Those are simple. You can do those. I can do those in my sleep. But I tried to start with what I would thought would be the most impactful, and it just tripped everyone up because they weren't ready for that shift yet. So it helped me to order things in the right direction, to be able to communicate the why versus just the how, because people will do almost anything if they know what's at the end of that rainbow. But if you don't show them the end in mind first, borrow from Stephen Covey, they're not going to follow you down that rabbit hole because it's not the most fun thing in the world to be doing these things. Just like setting up our Facebook ads isn't always fun, but yet we still do them because we want the sales.
What was the best feedback you've gotten from a friend that you helped in that beginning phase? It was like real, but it became very impactful.
At the beginning, I think I was a little dismissive over the realities of the situation. It's really easy to say, oh, don't worry about cash flow. It'll come to you. Even though I know it will from experience, like if you free up your time, you're going to generate cash flow. But you can't just tell someone that. You have to show them that. So like being able to say, okay, I get it. Cash flow is going to be concerned if we go down this pathway because you're going to have to hire people. So honestly, if you had 20 extra hours a week, what would you launch? And then help them launch that. So there's a dual-edged sword I can play in the fact that I not only know operations and how to run the business, but I've done a ton of marketing, is that I can help with that cash flow side of it too. And just opening up that side of me, which I hadn't intended when I launched the company, to also be coaching on the marketing systems, has really proven to, honestly, most of my clients come to me first from the marketing side, and then we can get into the operations side after the fact once cash flow is generated.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes we don't know what we need, right?
Right. You don't, right?
Said a very smart guy a few minutes ago. Perfect. So what do you see as the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face when transitioning from a solopreneur to building a team?
Ooh, the biggest challenge is letting go of some control is always difficult, and knowing not to backslide. Because here's the thing. We all started our company ourselves, right? We were doing all the things. And we know how we set up a Facebook post or how we set up an email for our in our CRM. And you could teach someone to do that all day and night, and they're going to take it and go, okay, that's great. And over time, they're going to shift to doing it their way. The most dangerous thing we can do in that aspect is to shift and to get back into their Cheerios. So, not backsliding, trusting your people, not that whole trust but verify thing, but actually just getting their feedback, say, boss, everything's working, and trust, stopping yourself from logging in to check their work like you're looking over their shoulder. They know when you're doing that, believe it or not, even if they are just feeling it intrinsically. Trust them and don't feel like you need to look over their shoulder more than anything. Just give them an open feedback loop to tell you how things are going, have reporting mechanisms, but stay out of their work. Let them do what they're doing. That's the hardest thing because we've done it all. We know what right looks like in our mind, but we are employing people because they're smart. Let them be smart.
Do you have some good strategies that you teach your clients to help them kind of let go of that control?
So it's kind of like habit building, right? And habit breaking. This is like a good one right now because I just quit alcohol like entirely. I'm on day 99 of completely sober lifestyle.
Congratulations.
It's been fun, actually. But at the same time, I'm learning to live without alcohol. Like I wasn't like an alcoholic, but like I drink, right? And now I'm learning to not drink. And there are the moments in the week or the day or out with friends where it's like, well, here's where I have a beer. Here's where I have a bourbon. And I can't do that anymore. So what do I have to do instead? It's the same way with what you're doing. Why are you checking the email marketing system? Because that's what you used to do every morning. That's what you used to do at the end of every day. That's how you ended lunch, right? You came back from lunch, you checked how everything was going on the email side. You have to break your own habits. So know your triggers, know when you're doing it, put stop signs in front of you, or if you want to go the extreme route, like get yourself logged out of the system and blocked out. That's probably a bit more extreme than I'd be comfortable doing. But more than anything, here's the real kicker. Give your team permission to tell you to back off. If your team has permission to tell you, why are you checking this? You told me just to tell you. You told me to tell you if you're getting into my weeds. So I'm telling you. And then when they do that, reward them. Give them a bonus. Give them accolades in the company Slack channel. Celebrate the fact that they called you on your bullcrap because you told them you're not going to backslide. You told them to hold you accountable. Be held accountable for backsliding. It's only going to take once. And you're going to be like, okay, I'm out. They called me on it. It's only going to take once. I promise you.
Won't do it again, I promise.
Right?
Today's episode is sponsored by Accidental CEO. Hello there, my CEOs. I'm Nada Salvatore, founder of Accidental CEO, an education and coaching platform where we believe every surprise in your career is a step towards greatness. Whether you found yourself unexpectedly in charge or you're actively seeking to climb the leadership ladder, we are here to guide you. I specialize in transforming emergent leaders like you into confident CEOs through target education and personalized coaching. With Accidental CEO, you gain access to exclusive workshops, one-on-one coaching, and a suite of online courses designed to hone your skills, refine your strategies, and amplify your business powers. My approach is tailored to fit your unique journey. I understand the twists and turns of becoming a CEO, especially when it's unexpected. That's why my programs are flexible, comprehensive, and driven by real-world success experiences. Don't just take the lead, master it. Our supportive community is here to ensure you emerge as a visionary leader, equipped to navigate any challenges and seize all opportunities. Visit us today at accidentalceo.co to learn more about how we can help transform your accidental position into a deliberate and successful leadership legacy. Accidental CEO, where you learn to lead not by chance, but by choice. Yeah, it's definitely probably the most difficult thing that I hear from my clients too when I'm coaching is the letting go of control and not micromanaging things. When you put so much effort and money and sweat and tears into building your business and being able to back off and trust that somebody will do it just as well if not better than you. But the truth is, there's a lot of people out there that are better than you in a lot of the things that you're doing day to day. They can actually allow you to free some time to be the thinker, to do the dreaming for your company, and be the CEO that you're supposed to be. So it's a hard thing to do, but it's a must thing to do if you want to continue to grow.
Absolutely. And it is hard. So, A, forgive yourself for wanting to do it because we've all done it, but like find those mechanisms and just trust. And all these our teams are built on trust, and if you're hiring right and you're hiring smart people, if they're smart people and they feel micromanaged, they're not going to be with you for long. They're going to leave and go somewhere where they're not micromanaged.
Let's talk a little bit about teams. So I know that you work a lot with people kind of growing their teams. Do you have any specific advice for hiring? Because I feel like, as somebody who hired many people before, it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to find the right person. It's hard to see in a short period of time of an interview, maybe if that's really the right person. Do you have any techniques or strategies that you teach your clients when it comes to the hiring process?
Yes, the first part of the process begins before you even put that job spec out on Upwork or Indeed or wherever, and that's build your organizational chart first. So build an org chart without names attached to it, but just build it based on responsibilities, and understand that especially at the early phases, you might have 7 or 8 blocks on your org chart and you're only hiring 2 people. That means you're dual hatting people. They're in various responsibilities, but you're still beginning with the end in mind. You know what you want your company to look like. You're just going to have to dual, triple hat some people. So begin with the org chart. When we're hiring, the biggest piece of advice I can give is hire for culture first. So before we get into job details, I like to do a culture fit interview. Are we going to jive with each other? Are we going to drive each other crazy? Do we have disc profiles that correspond with each other? And that, most importantly, do you have a disc profile that corresponds to the job I'm trying to place you in? I do all of that before we even talk about the job. So from there, we'll move into a second interview, actually going through job specifics, do some trial tasks before I ever make a final decision. And like one story I can tell you, I was hiring an assistant for myself in operations, and I had this great candidate. On paper, I'm like, this gal has done everything. Holy cow, I got to hire her. And my coach went, you can't hire that person. Are you kidding? I'm like, well, why not? Like, she's a high I, Adam. You're a high D. You want your high I's over there, like, but not dealing with you all day. You want them to go be creative, leave you alone, and come back with the finished product, because high I's are going to drive you crazy, and you're going to drive a high I crazy because you are crazy. You're a high D. High D's are super crazy. So it's not going to work. You're not going to like her. She's going to hate you. And it might last 6 to 12 weeks, and then she's going to quit. And so like, oh, okay. It's like, no, what you need. And she gave me, like, you really need a high C to really be that stability next to you, to hold in your crazy, because you're a high D. You're crazy. Accept it. And that person can help balance you out. So just one example of just really leading in those profiles and that culture fit in order to help guide our decision making.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important to look outside of just that skill interview and make sure that there's a good match when it comes to personalities. And, I even would say we should be doing that with our clients, making sure that you're working with the right clients. Part of it is making sure that you have a lot of alignment when it comes to what you want to see as an end product, personality wise, and all of that. So it should be part of every interaction that you have when it comes to your company.
Yeah, and when hiring the wrong clients too is bad. Oh, have you ever had the wrong client in a 1-to-1? It's so miserable. It hurts.
It takes away your money and your time.
And it's no fun. You both end up hating each other by the end of it. And it's the worst.
Yeah.
I think we both made that mistake, I think, haven't we?
I'm sure we all have done it at some
Yes.
point. Yeah, I have a very specific process of how I meet my clients now to make sure that we're a good fit. And I tell them that, like, we're going to meet first to make sure that we're a good fit before we even talk about any pricing or any service. So
from a sales side, I like that too, because it's like, hey, I'm interviewing you.
Oh, yeah.
I make that
very clear. Like, we're interviewing each other. And I tell people like I'm in a phase in my life where if this is not a good fit, I'm okay staying home with my kids this weekend and spend time with them. Like I don't need to be miserable for 10 hours for money. Like it's just not in my life right now. So
Well, it
and people
sucks
actually
energy out of you, and like then you can't serve the people you are a good
yeah.
fit for either.
Yeah, and people actually feel proud when they're like, "Oh, okay, like, you wanna work with me? Like, did I pass the interview?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do this." So, it makes them feel important and valued that you're actually paying attention to them as well, and is a back and forth partnership because that's really what it's gonna be when you're doing the work. It's a partnership, so it has to feel good for both ends of the story there, so building a company culture is essential for any growing company. We were just been talking about all of that. What are your top tips for that entrepreneur that's looking to build a culture that truly reflects their value?
To build a culture, first, like what really matters to you. Like, be able to answer these questions honestly, and like, do not sugarcoat it. Don't tell yourself what you think the world wants to hear. What really matters to you. You need to be upfront and honest about this, and there is no wrong answer. There's only yours. So, I mean, you look out across the spectrum, and there's businesses of all types, of all stripes, all sorts of different like machismo super images and all and like very like diversified image. Like it's all across the board. So be who you need to be first. That's the easy part. The hard part is to really build that culture. Your people have to connect with you. And that requires you to show some vulnerability, to show that you bleed too and you've got the scars and you've been through that and you understand, you can empathize with them. So showing vulnerability has been the one thing that's built culture faster than anything. It's very difficult to do for most of us because we're used to putting on that suit of armor. Practice it. Decide what you want to be vulnerable about. That's how I usually do it. I'll like decide I'm going to open up this part and let them in. And I'll actually record myself talking about it to practice opening up.
Oh, good.
That's the musician side of me is I'll practice it because then it feels it's you've done it before, and it's a bit more natural when you do open up and let people in. So when you let people in, they let you in, and this wonderful conversation starts in your company that a mission statement can't replicate. Your culture is not a mission statement. Your culture is not a placard that you put. Your culture is how people react to each other and how they share with each other and how they treat each other. And that has to start from you.
I was just this morning talking to my assistant. I made a mistake on our schedule that it's affecting what's happening this week. And so I got in, we use Voxer. I got in Voxer and I was like, hey, this is what I did. It was on me. Help me figure it out. Like, how can we avoid this to happen in the future? Kind of like showing in the process, hey, I make mistakes too. I messed up. How can we work together to solve the problem to kind of encourage in any future situation if she made a mistake instead of trying to hide it or being worried about telling me, she'll feel more comfortable coming forward and be like, hey, I made a mistake. Can't we figure it out how to solve it and how to not let it happen again? So, like you said, trying to be vulnerable and show that we are not perfect. I care about my business more than anybody, but we make mistakes too. So,
I remember the first time I sent like an email with the wrong headline or wrong subject line to like 300,000 people. And I felt so bad about it. And my CEO looked at me and went, "Hey, you're finally a real email marketer."
there
And
you
I went,
go.
"What are you talking about?" It's like, you're not really doing this until you screw up that big. like, okay,
Uh,
completely disarming now on both sides. It was beautiful.
Very good. So, in your opinion, what is the most common mistake that companies make when they're scaling up, and how can they avoid it?
This is a tough one. It's an easy answer. It's a really tough thing to do. As you're scaling, you have to find ways to maintain transparency on your team. You're growing. That means the numbers are growing. That means you're bringing people in to help you. You've probably always had that balance sheet or that P&L, something that shows you how the company is doing. And you need to make that in some way, shape, or form public to the company so that team members know how the company's performing too. Here's the thing. You're probably saying to yourself, well, then my team members are going to know how much we're making. To which I say, dude, they already know. You hired smart people. You're telling them how many sales you're getting a week so they can expect what's coming on the back end in terms of support and all the other stuff that come with the company. They know what it's selling for. They can math. Okay, it's not rocket science. We have it on our phones, little calculator. What they don't know is all the internal things that are going into making the company run. All they're seeing is we had 100 sales at $1,000 a pop. That means how much money we made. They don't know about the $10,000 you dropped into Facebook ads, or the fact that this new initiative raised your email list count, so you had to pay another $500 a month for your email service provider. They don't know those ins and outs. They don't know how the company is actually doing. Instead, they're putting their perceptions on it. And when you allow people to do that, it's dangerous because they're making possibly incorrect assumptions, and they might be making you the bad guy because you might not be, hey, he's not paying me enough yet. How he's making this much money. So getting transparent, it's so hard in the long run when you become as transparent as you can and keep what you have to under wraps. I'm not saying like open up everything, but be transparent about the things that matter to your team to help really reinvigorate that trust, to show them the whole picture and to show them how what they do matters to making that picture better.
Can you share maybe a success story where smooth operations helped transform a business that was struggling into something scalable and efficient in their operations?
Yeah, actually, I'm working through the final stages of it right now. I had this entrepreneur, he was all up in his head, and this guy's he's a genius, literally. And so he was all up in here about how to run everything. And I was helping him on the marketing side first, getting things running. And I kept telling him, brother, you got to simplify. And he's like, no, I just want to do this. And he'd go into ClickUp and make these like ridiculous things that only made sense to him. And finally he came to me. It was like 6 weeks ago. We're still, like I said, still working through the details. He's like, Adam, I think I need to be out of all of this. I'm driving myself crazy. I'm like, you're kind of driving everyone crazy, man. So he hired an assistant and he let go. And he's offloading right now. And so like getting to see that from where he was to where he is now and to watch that transformation. It doesn't matter how often I see it. I've seen it a couple times now, but getting to see it this last time, because I had to work on this guy to get him to unload, and now he is, and it's a beautiful thing, and his sales are following. They're going up as he simplifies. So just one example of just how beautiful it is when we learn to do that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's like we said earlier. It's hard to step back and just look from afar. But if you have good systems in place, it should work out for you.
Well, it should be hard to step away. You built this. So respect the fact that it should be hard. Expect it to be hard, and you won't be disappointed.
Very good. So, how do you tailor your approach when you're working with different industries, or do you find that the principles that you teach people are just kind of universal and they work in any industry, no matter what?
I mean, for the most part, it's universal. I would say the tactical application changes. So most of my clients have been in the info product space, courses and memberships. So the tactical day to day looks a very specific way versus more the e-commerce side, tactical, structured the same way, but get into the weeds, incredibly different because tactically they're just doing different things. In terms of leadership and what your team really needs, these are all universalities, and I've seen it work with companies of all stripes. Planning phases sometimes change as well, just because info products, the way we plan our product launches and everything, just very different than how an e-commerce or a more physical product will plan it. They have different timelines, different lead times more than anything that they have to be taking into consideration. So in many ways, info products, it's the more difficult ones because, as one of my mentors said, no one actually wants to buy your course. They want what's at the end. But it's it's also easier in a way because we have less lead times and, inventory and all that stuff to deal with too.
So finally, for someone you kind of listening that it's on the fence about seeking some help and scaling their business, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them about the importance of really building good systems and processes in their business?
So the best advice I could say is, did you work this hard to create a job for yourself, or do you want to actually become an entrepreneur? Because right now you've created a job for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to be. If you're happy where you are and you just want to come in every day and do the day-to-day, you don't have to be bigger than you are. If you want to scale your impact, if you want to reach more people, you're not going to be able to hustle your way to it. It's going to take more. To reach more people requires a different version of yourself to do it. And the only way you're going to be able to do that really is time and space. You need time and space away from the business to do it. Team members help you. And when you find true believers that identify with your business, that are passionate about what you do, and not just coming to work with a paycheck, you built that culture where people care about the outcome that you're getting for your students, they supercharge you because they're another sounding board. They're another point of motivation, inspiration to get up every day and to keep growing. It's a beautiful thing. And I firmly believe we were put on this earth for a reason. If you found your reason, awesome. Celebrate that and let's go get it.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Adam. Tell everybody where to find you if they want to work with you and they're ready to grow their business.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun. You can find me on my website, www.adamliette, ADAMLIETTE. Always like to spell it out for a podcast. I have my own podcast on there called the Smooth Operator Podcast. So check it out. Episode 155 coming out this week. So it's going for a bit, and you podcast. It's so much fun. I tell you, it's
so much
absolute
learning.
blast.
Exciting. Yes, for sure.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much. We'll make sure to link everything for our audience. Guys, thank you so much for being with us for another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast, and we'll see you again next week. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.